Now, a warning, our next story might be distressing to some viewers. Hamas has released a video of a skeletal-looking Israeli hostage, Eita David, being forced to dig his own grave. What you're about to see has been approved for use by the hostage's family.
מה שאני עושה עכשיו, אני חופר את הקבר. הקבר שמיועד מבחינתי לי. כי כל יום שעובר הגוף שלי הולך, נחלש, נראה זה יותר וחלש יותר. מבחינתי זה נראה שאני בדרך למוות שלי. אני חופר לעצמי את הקבר שבו אני אולי אשכב. ובאמת, כל יום שהולך ועובר, הזמן נגמר. הזמן הולך ואוזל. ורק אתם תוכלו לעצור את זה, כדי שנוכל לשכב במיטה שלי.
Yeah, the 24-year-old was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. His family has released a statement saying, "We are forced to witness our beloved son and brother, Eita David, deliberately and cynically starved in Hamas's tunnels in Gaza, a living skeleton buried alive. Our son has only a few days left to live in his current condition."
Joining us now is former Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy. Eylon, in the video he's seen crossing off dates on a calendar to show when he received food and when he didn't receive food, and then the camera moves on to show him digging his grave. We had thousands of Sydney-siders today supposedly marching for humanity in support of Palestinians, but not for this human who's been in captivity 666 days.
Yeah, for 666 days, the psychopaths of Hamas have been holding the hostages in hell. You know, I really thought we saw the worst and sickest of Hamas's propaganda when they paraded the Bibas babies in coffins in their hostage release ceremony. I thought we'd seen the worst when they forced poor Eita David to watch his fellow hostages get released and beg for his life in the car, watching from the sidelines. But making a hostage dig his own grave for the cameras while he's being deliberately starved is a reminder of how sick and twisted and utterly evil Hamas is. And Hamas does this because it knows it can get away with it, because it knows the world has given up on trying to pressure Hamas to free the hostages. The world leaders are only giving us lip service. Instead, world leaders are trying to pressure Israel, and Hamas now has absolutely no reason to let the hostages go. In fact, it has every reason to hold on to the hostages, because world leaders are saying the more you torture them, the more you starve them, the more we're going to turn the screws on Israel. So I hope this is a reminder that Israel isn't fighting against a political movement or a liberation force. We're fighting against psychopaths, against genuine sadists who are starving and torturing the hostages and torturing their families. Eviatar's mother hasn't watched that video yet because she fears she could faint. And this really needs to be a wake-up call to the whole world. The hostages don't have time. Time ran out a long time ago. Eita David looks like he's at death's door. He's a living skeleton. Honestly, he looks like an Auschwitz inmate, not an Auschwitz survivor, an Auschwitz inmate. And we need pressure on Hamas to say, game's over. You have to release the hostages now. No excuses.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, that video is just shocking, absolutely shocking. There are no words for it. Now, Eylon, Hamas has said it will refuse to disarm unless an independent Palestinian state is established with Jerusalem as its capital. Now, of course, this comes after several countries, including the UK, France and Canada, they're pledging to recognise Palestine at the UN. What do you make of this demand by the terror group now?
Hamas feels emboldened to continue rejecting ceasefires and dragging out this war because world leaders have been telling it to keep going. I'm sorry, that's the case, and Australia is just as guilty as the UK and Canada. Israel and Hamas were in ceasefire talks, and it was expected that Hamas would agree to a ceasefire. It would let out half of the hostages, we would have a 60-day pause and negotiate an end of this war. And then what happened? Hamas's starvation campaign, pushing into international media pictures of children with muscular dystrophy and pretending that they were starving, grabbed global attention. World leaders condemned Israel, and Hamas doubled its demands. It started demanding the release of terrorists who took part in the October 7th massacre. Now it's demanding that Israel hand over Jerusalem before it's willing to end this war. This is crazy. You know, Keir Starmer in the UK told Hamas, we'll recognize a Palestinian state if you don't end the war, if you don't free the hostages. He's giving Hamas an incentive to continue the war. So I hope this is another wake-up call to world leaders to understand how much damage they are doing by trying to appease a violent protest movement on their own streets. They're trying to bring peace. They're condemning us to war. They're not helping us get to a ceasefire. They're blowing up a ceasefire. And I know that politicians in Australia from the government are going to be very scared of the large numbers marching through the streets with all the nasty slogans that they are chanting. But when you decide to appease an angry protest, you are in fact sabotaging ceasefire talks, condemning the hostages to being buried alive, and making sure far more people are going to be killed in a war that Hamas should have ended a long time ago.
Yeah, you are absolutely right that it beggars belief that our political leaders in this country don't understand what you have just said. I want to ask you about a weird story from the UK and get your thoughts on it. The top 100 names for baby boys born in the UK last year includes an interesting new entry. The name Yahya shot into the top 100, experiencing a boom in popularity greater than any other boy's name. And this is interesting because, of course, Yahya is the name of former Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who orchestrated the October 7 attacks in 2023. Eylon, should we read anything into this, or is this one of those just anomalies?
The October 7th massacre did not shock everyone around the world. It inspired people. It sparked celebrations, including in Australia in front of the Sydney Opera House, while the massacre was still ongoing. People saw what Hamas did when it gunned down Israelis at a music festival, abducted hostages like Eita David, slaughtered families in their homes, and they were excited and elated by it. And many people didn't see Yahya Sinwar as a terrorist. They saw him as some glorious liberation resistance leader. And this is the result. Look, this isn't just any other Muslim name. It's not the name Muhammad, which has been the top of the boys' names for who knows when. This catapulted into the top 100, jumped by more than any other name in terms of popularity. And it's clear, for far too many people, a minority, sure, but far too many for comfort, they see Yahya Sinwar and Hamas leaders as being cult icons. And this is a domestic extremism problem that Western countries need to get to grips with. Just as you couldn't imagine anyone in Britain naming their child Adolf at any point in the 1940s, it should have gone completely out of vogue, completely unacceptable. No one should be naming their child after the jihadi psychopath who launched this war and has brought so much destruction to the Middle East.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I just think it's frightening that that's the pathway that the UK are going right now. Eylon Levy, we always really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show this evening.
Pleasure as always.